Welcome. I'm Gayathri and I'm passionate about transformative coaching in the realm of life and leadership. My journey towards coaching started with an educational background in psychology and over 20 years of corporate leadership. Today, my commitment to help unlock limitless possibilities within each individual has culminated in the creation of my organization, Realize to Win. As a certified master coach, my philosophy centers around the power of the human mind and its boundless capacity for growth and achievement. My approach is rooted in the belief that with the right mindset, training, and guidance, there's truly no limits to what you can accomplish. My work is just not about reaching goals. It is truly about redefining the very boundaries of potential. Join me every week on my podcast, Catalyze Your Self, where we can dive into mindsets, experiences, and practical steps that will ignite your transformation towards limitless possibilities. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. Welcome, everyone, to Catalyze Yourself. I'm your host, Gayathri, and today we are tackling a vital topic that is at the core of personal growth and effective self-management: emotional regulation. How we handle our emotions can define our experiences, our relationships, and our overall well-being. So let's dive into what it takes to master your emotional regulation so we can all live effective, balanced, and peaceful lives. Every emotion you feel, whether it is joy to absolute despair, it is not just a reaction, it truly is information. Our emotions are intricate signals telling us about our environment, our needs, and our well being. But to use these signals effectively, we need the right tools. That is what today is all about: turning emotional chaos into insightful cues that can guide our actions and decisions. Emotional regulation is not someone else asking you to calm down or you feeling like you have to deny your emotions to please others. It is acknowledging that every emotion you have is valid and has a purpose. The key is the true owner of your emotions is you. So you are the one who should determine how to work with it. If our emotions are signals, then emotional regulation is owning and managing and working the turning of that emotional dial. It allows us to adjust how do we respond to those signals, ensuring we don't overact or underact. And why is this important? Because it affects everything: our mental health, our relationships, our work, our sense of self. By regulating our emotions, we ensure that we respond in ways that align with our best selves and our long term goals. If you have developed the ability to regulate your emotions, it means you have developed the ability to influence which of your emotions get to show up, when they get to show up, how you and others experience your emotions when they show up, and how you express your emotions when they show up. It is also crucial for us to differentiate emotional regulation from emotional suppression. Regulation involves managing both the experience and the expression of emotions in a way that is adaptive and appropriate to the context. What does this mean? This means altering one's emotional responses to better fit the situation and using strategies that involve understanding, processing, and working through these emotions. Suppression or denial, however, involves trying to push away or ignoring emotional experiences. It is a non adaptive strategy, leads to psychological distress, psychological dysregulation, and in the end, very poor emotional health. While suppression might feel like it is offering a short term relief or even social compliance, it does not address the underlying emotions that caused it in the first place or help individuals deal with those emotions in a constructive manner. And to truly understand emotional regulation, we have to think of it from a few different perspectives: psychological, physiological, neurological, and spiritual. Let's start with the physiological impact of emotional regulation. When emotions are effectively regulated, the body's stress responses, such as your heart rate or cortisol levels, are better managed. In contrast, poor regulation or suppression or denial leads to chronic stress, and it negatively impacts your heart, your cardiovascular system, or your immune system, and your metabolic functions. Psychologically, emotional regulation helps you maintain better mental health, and it truly enhances your resilience. It enables us to adapt our emotional responses to fit appropriate social and personal contexts. And it helps us improve our self image and our interpersonal relationships. If you are being effective in your emotional regulation, it means you are understanding and processing emotions in a way that helps in coping with challenging situations rather than avoiding or suppressing feelings. Suppression does zero number of favors to your mind because it can lead to, as we know, increased anxiety, depression, and difficulties in your interpersonal relationships. If you're a regular listener of mine, you will not be surprised by what I'm about to say next. Every single choice you make is a training ground for your brain. Your brain is working away, doing things that you're not even aware of. Neurologically, emotional regulation is managed by several areas of the brain working together. So there's one part of the brain that I often like to call out the prefrontal cortex that is focused on adjusting the intensity of emotions. The emotions themselves are generated by a completely different part of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is regulating the intensity, and this results in the integration of our thinking with our feeling. When you actively practice techniques that impact emotional regulation, there are neuroimaging studies that have shown there is a strengthening of the neural connections, and which can even lead to structural changes in the brain, such as increased cortical thickness. As we know, the prefrontal cortex takes the longest to mature. And this is the part of the brain that helps with logical thinking, decision making, rational and long term decision making, etc. Think about this in terms of young people. For young people to gain an edge in this competitive world, it would be an excellent practice to incorporate earlier than later. Start emotionally regulating, and you will find your prefrontal cortex is maturing faster than otherwise. In contrast, suppression does not engage these neural regulatory pathways effectively, and you're using your brain less and less, and therefore you end up regulating your emotions less and less throughout your life later. Suppression equals zero benefits. Always, please choose to process it. Now, no matter what your belief system is, from a spiritual perspective, emotional regulation is often associated with greater personal insight, peace, and connected with one's values with the broader world. Many spiritual practices and teachings emphasize the awareness and acceptance of emotions and sees emotions as transient states that do not define one's essence. This perspective helps individuals detach from immediate emotional impulses and align our responses with deeper, more meaningful principles of living. So, if you need reasons to start emotionally regulating, it's good for your body, it's good for your mind, it is good for your brain to call it out, and it is good for you living in a true, authentic way in your life, in an effective way in your life. As we touched on earlier, emotions are signals that can be dialed up or down in their intensity level. And that ability to do that lies within you. No matter what that intensity level is, what we need to remember is it serves a purpose of communicating to us and giving us information that we need to know. Emotions are complex signals that communicates a lot about our internal states, our needs, and even the environment around us. Emotions tell us of our unmet needs or desires, for example. Sadness might indicate a need for support or connection. Anger could point to a need for respect or boundaries. Emotions provide feedback about our surroundings. Happiness might confirm that you're safe, you're in a rewarding environment, while fear might be a warning of potential danger. Our emotional reactions can reflect our deeply held values and beliefs. Feeling pride in an accomplishment shows that achievement and competence plays a crucial role and are important for us. And disgust might reveal a conflict with our moral standards. Emotions play a crucial role in social interactions by influencing how we relate with others. Expressing emotions can attract sympathy, help, or cooperation from others. And reading others' emotions can help us respond appropriately. Emotions can motivate us to act. The surge of adrenaline that comes with fear can prepare us to flee from danger, while joy can motivate us to engage more deeply with a particular activity or even a person. No matter what the purpose of the signal is, what we need to focus on is the intensity of experiencing that particular emotion. You can achieve this by mastering the timing of emotional responses. This skill can be particularly useful in managing reactions in situations where timing can impact the outcome, like in professional settings or during critical conversations. So, what do I mean by master the timing of your responses? For this, I need to take you back a few years when I was becoming fascinated with the concept that observation is one of the most underutilized leadership and life techniques. I was learning and practicing quite a bit about mindfulness, and one aspect of this is observation and slowing down. And what I learned more and more was emotions do not have to be let out in the moment it happens. As a matter of fact, it is more effective when you slow down, observe your emotion, get to the root cause, and respond in a rational, measured manner. Let me share with you what I've learned, and you can choose to apply what appeals to you the most. First, anticipation and preparation. If you already know, if you're already anticipating that a situation you're about to walk into will evoke a strong emotional response, preparing ahead of time can help you manage when these emotions surface. For instance, if you know you're heading into a stressful meeting, use relaxation techniques beforehand or setting mental strategies can help you with these emotions like anxiety, anger, and keep them at bay until a more appropriate time. I have a client who demonstrates this incredibly well. He's so aware of himself, his role, and the optics on him. He plans as much as he can ahead of time and takes on a stoic approach whenever emotions become heightened, and he deals with it later. Then second point, delay your emotional responses. One underlying factor that goes into this in many cases is your reactions can become the actual event versus what caused the reaction in the first place. For example, Something happens, or someone does something or says something that upsets you. As a result, you get upset. And the fact that you got upset becomes the event, the problem that needs resolving, the issue as a result. And somehow, what caused your reaction is no longer the highlight. If you want to truly solve the root cause of what caused you to get upset, delay your upset. Keep the focus on the root cause. Learning to delay your response of emotional triggers is a valuable skill. This does not mean suppressing your emotions, but rather giving yourself permission to feel them at a more suitable time. Techniques such as timeout, taking a break during a heated moment allow you to revisit those emotions later, and this will potentially lead to more constructive outcomes. Yes, this time I held off till my third point. You know it was coming up though. Mindfulness and awareness. Practicing mindfulness helps you become more aware of the rise and fall of your emotional responses throughout the day. This heightened awareness can allow you to choose the most appropriate times to engage with these emotions rather than being caught off guard by them. Being mindful also asks of you to reflect. So make sure you reflect to ensure that these emotions are dealt with constructively and they do not interrupt your daily activities and your decision making process. So the next one, the fourth one, is the point where I bring you to our brain, our cognitive techniques. Take the attention off your brain away from your emotional centers to its tactical and rational centers. Focus on your breathing, your sense of touch. This will distract the brain from the emotion in the moment. It is even could be looking at a very farthest point that you can and trying to focus on it. So it is now using your visual senses. All you're doing is distracting your brain from the emotion to a physical sense. Another cognitive technique that you can use is called refocusing. So, the same point of the visual focus, but this is more of a task. So, for instance, if you start feeling overwhelmed or feeling some sort of emotion that's kind of moving into an intense space, consciously, consciously decide to focus on a task that requires your concentration. So it shifts you away from your emotional energy into productive energy and helps delay those intentional emotional processing for a later time. Another approach you can incorporate is emotional conditioning. This is one approach I use consistently. You can train yourself to associate certain times of the day or specific routines for emotional processing. For example, some might find that running or physical exercises in the evening helps process the day's stress, conditioning the mind to handle significant emotional processing during these times. For me, emotional processing times are when I'm showering or when I'm driving early mornings to and forth from my gym. I know these are the times when I go into heavy spaces, think through how I need to feel about it, why it happened, process it all, get to my space of accepting and recognizing what my next steps are, and I move forward. And finally, utilize your support systems. And by this, I mean non judgmental support systems. We are not looking for opinions. We are not looking for opinions on your emotions. We are looking for support for you to process your emotions and build your ability to regulate these emotions. That could be a life and leadership coach, of course, like me. It could be your friends. It could be family. You will know best what the best fit for you will be. Having said all that, what does demonstrating emotional regulation look like? And what can help you practically with this? Influencing how you express emotions and refining your emotional expression so that it is appropriate, and adaptive to your particular situation. I have found a few strategies to be the most effective throughout my corporate years and with my clients. Let me share those with you. Learning communication techniques such as active listening and nonviolent communication can profoundly impact how you express emotions. These skills encourage expressing oneself in a way that is clear, assertive, without being aggressive, and facilitating better understanding and reducing the likelihood of conflicts. Learning how to tactfully and respectfully and situation appropriately be assertive. Being assertive means you're expressing your feelings and needs openly and honestly, but also with respect for others. And there's a nuance here. The key is for you to be able to express your emotions in a way that is helping others understand your perspectives without feeling threatened or dismissed. Learning how to reframe a situation can influence your emotional responses. For instance, if you reframe a stressful or negative situation as a challenge or an opportunity rather than a threat, you can shift your emotional experience from anxiety or fear to motivation and engagement. It is all a matter of perspective and how you look at it. Engaging in role playing can prepare you for emotional expressions in various scenarios. This is something that I do with my clients all the time. This is helping anyone who wants to plan can practice. This technique allows you to practice for your emotional expressions in various scenarios. And this helps decrease anxiety about emotional expression and refine the way you present your emotion in real life situations. Learning and the daily practice of deep, controlled breathing activates your body's parasympathetic nervous system, which essentially promotes your state of relaxation and lowers your stress levels. This state allows you to reduce the intensity of your emotions, and it makes them easier for you to express them in a calm and controlled manner. There are many breathing techniques you could choose. There's a diaphragmatic or belly breathing that engages the diaphragm, that allows your lungs to expand more and improve oxygen intake. Another one is box breathing, which involves inhaling, holding, exhaling, holding again, each for the same count. So usually it's 4 to 6 seconds. And this helps with focus and this helps you with increased concentration. Setting goals for emotional expression and deciding in advance how you want to express your emotions in a certain situations can help you prepare and choose the most effective way to do so. For example, if you anticipate a difficult conversation, you might decide that you will keep your tone steady and use I statements. Whenever emotions run high, there should never be a you. There should always be I's. I am feeling this way. There's no projections. It's very important. And then help the I statements to express your feelings. Now, the last one is very simple, and I know I've touched on this in an earlier episode of mine. Whenever an emotion comes up, there's a very quick way to shift your brain from the emotion to your logical thinking, and that is by labeling. Immediately identify and label your emotion. So, for example, let's say you're feeling some sort of way. Go, oh, wait, I'm feeling overwhelmed. You have labeled it. Now you're going to start processing it. Oh, wait, I'm feeling angry. Oh, wait, now you're going to start processing because you've shifted it from the emotion to an actual logical labeling tactical process. Very simple, very easy, and probably the fastest for you to incorporate into your daily life. And I hope you will. Now, there are 2 points we have to remember and cannot be overlooked. when it comes to your journey to emotional regulation. And they're very two distinct points. The first is for those who have to overcome certain predispositions to emotional regulation. This could include biological factors, neurological birth defects, genetics, hormonal imbalances. This could be psychological factors like mental health disorders or maladaptive cognitive patterns. This could be exposure to traumatic events and chronic stress. This could be social and environmental factors like social learning, cultural norms, or lack of support. This could be behaviors like substance abuse or sleep disturbances. Regardless, for this first point, this in no way means you cannot accomplish the goal. It simply means the resources that need to be pulled in will be a lot more targeted in addition to what I've given above. Treatment and strategies can then be tailored to that individual's needs, to your needs. Whether it could involve medication, it could involve lifestyle changes, or supportive interventions. It is absolutely possible. The first step is to decide. The first step is to want to make the change. The second point is the want. It's the decision ownership. The decision to actively engage in emotional regulation should ideally be made by the individual themselves for it to be the most effective and healthy. So someone is not telling you to do it or asking you to do it. You have determined that you must do it. This personal choice is critical because self-motivation and autonomy are key components for psychological well-being and successful emotional management. Ultimately, when the individuals decide for themselves to engage in emotional regulation, they're more likely to experience the full spectrum of its benefits. And this is what's going to lead to a more healthier and a more balanced life. As we wrap up today's journey into emotional regulation, I would ask of you to remember that this is a skill, one that you can get better at over time. Each step you take, no matter how small, is a step towards a more mindful, intentional, and resilient self. Thank you for tuning in to Catalyze Yourself. I'm your host, Gayathri, and though I try to keep my points simple and hopefully easily consumable, I do recognize that you may not always be in a position to make note of it all or remember it all. For those of you interested in getting a summary takeaway, please feel free to email me. I will include my email address in my podcast description. If not, you can also reach out to me via Instagram or LinkedIn. All my socials are also included in my podcast description. Learning to regulate our emotions is a key skill for all of us to master. Let me leave you with a challenge. Pick a few approaches that you find most appealing to start with, and just start. If you find yourself thinking of getting yourself some additional support, you can think of me. Reach out to me via email or Instagram or LinkedIn, and I will get back to you. As you know, I'm a life and leadership coach, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm here for. I hope this episode has given you the tools to start mastering your emotional regulations. Please do not forget to subscribe or follow based on your podcast platform. Share this episode if you find that this is something that others can find valuable. And do join me for next time as we continue to explore the skills that catalyze our best selves. Until then, keep striving, keep reflecting, and keep yourself emotionally regulated.